Hey guys, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you aren't. My name is EDJ, and I quickly want to show myself out. I'll be very brief. I have a main channel. This EDJ channel I created to separate my reaction content, from my normal channel. My main channel is Edwin de Jesus. As a a soon to I'm this summer I'm gonna get my bachelor's in theology. I know a lot about the Bible and Christianity, and so yeah, as a I'm gonna get my bachelor's from Bible college come this summer, and on this channel I talk a lot about theology. As you can see right here, I talk about just theological, religious stuff, and I'm starting to get into it more. And so, recently, if you're interested in following this channel, feel free to. I'll put the link in the description down below. Recently, I did a video about all the Roman emperors mentioned in the Bible, mainly from the Julian Claudian dynasty, starting with Augustus. I also am doing my Christian reactions on there. I did a reaction to another Christian YouTuber named Redeemer Zone. His video, the story of the entire Bible, I guess. And so I reacted to that and gave a lot of my input. Warning, I do talk a lot more and pause a lot more because I consider myself I actually know a lot. I actually know the Bible and am able to explain and delve really much more deeply into those topics than I am here in this channel where I just watch history about stuff I'm sort of but not completely sure about. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you support, and all Christian reaction videos I do will be on this channel. So with that said, now I'm done shilling myself out for a minute. We're gonna be reacting to the second to last Byzantine episode from Dovahadi called Madness and Devils. So, by the way, if I'm talking a little low, it's because it's night right now, and I live with family, so I don't want to be too loud. So I probably won't pause as much, but I will try to speak. So yeah, last time we covered about Justinius, wait a minute. Yeah, sorry, I had a brain fart there. It's Justinian. We covered about him, and I see why he is the most well known of the Byzantine emperors, and arguably the peak of the Byzantine Empire as a whole, because I really don't think it'll reach to new heights. His greatest achievement is, I suppose, keep reconquering so much of the lost Western Empire, and he had a dream to reunite it all, but he got pretty far though. That is amazing. Him and Belisarius, I believe, were basically Augustus and Agrippa 2.0, so yeah, it's gonna be really sad to watch how the rest of the Byzantine Empire progresses. It's like a tragedy, because I know it's not gonna go as well. Well, let's get to it. A quick thing first, if you want to watch the original video, link will be down in the description below, in case you don't want to see my face or anything regarding that.
Of all the sad words Eastern Roman history knows, the saddest are these. Justinian was dead. For what comes next? Well, before Justinian died, Justin, Vigilantia's son that is, had long coveted the empire. Deeply arrogant about being the great emperor's nephew, absolutely sure of his excellence and wisdom and all that. In previous years, he had been married to Theodora's niece, Sophia, and met a new administrator in the capital, Tiberius, soon becoming friends. So much so, he made Tiberius one of the many he influenced to help support his future claim. When the bureaucrat realized Justinian was dead, being one of the influenced, he told everyone Justinian had chosen Justin, his nephew, to be
Wasn't there another Justin, the one who actually had the Chad figure instead of this dude?
his heir as a final wish. The Senate went along with it. Justin II was crowned by the Patriarch, elevated Tiberius to command the executors, gave gifts to the plebs, pardoned debts to the senators, guaranteed Monophysite toleration, and promised everyone Justin Germanus would be treated well.
Okay, that's the other Justin, but okay, already with all that you just said, you get the impression that Justin II is a people pleaser and wants to please everyone by coming across as tolerant to everything, which never works. What's the saying? You try to please everyone, you'll please no one, or something like that. Either way, I'm gonna predict he's awful as emperor, mainly because he doesn't have the Chad figure like this Justin, who probably should have been emperor.
Justin II then called Justin from the Eastern armies and treated him well for 2 seconds. Then he accused him of a whole bunch of bullshit, had him arrested, and exiled him to go govern Egypt. And yeah,
Oh,
not really, having him murdered in his sleep there. Again,
holy crap.
invented bullshit.
Okay, wow, holy crap. That was quick, but well, I suppose that kind of reminds me of the Tiberius and Germanicus situation. Again, there's no proof that Tiberius murdered Germanicus, and there's no proof that Livia murdered half of Augustus's family to put Tiberius on the throne, though a lot of people seem to buy into that narrative, and I kind of buy into it too, but either way, as far as I could tell, most historians don't believe that happened. Either way, but if it did, it kind of reminds me of that, you know. Speaking of speaking of Tiberius, the the second Roman emperor, he following Augustus was such a hard thing because Augustus was the greatest of the Roman emperors, but he wasn't bad. Like, if anything, I would put him in like the okay category. Like, he for the most part kept the peace, kept the status quo, and saved a lot of money. So I wouldn't call him like great. I wouldn't call him bad. I would call him like good, or okay. And yeah, I wonder what would happen if Germanicus had become emperor. Like, that's the greatest what if. If a lot of people are of the opinion he'd be the greatest thing ever, but it's a shame, So many like promising people. If they had been emperor, what would have become, right? I predict that Justin II won't even be okay like Tiberius. I just think he's already setting himself up for failure.
North of the bullshit though were the Gepids, some Germs mud-hutting on the Danube, who surrounded by Lombards and Avars were soon crushed, and their mud huts taken. The conflict left Sirmium open for the retaking, and Justin exploited it. The Avars in turn told the new emperor to pay them in exchange for not invading. Justin refused, and the Avars invaded. Tiberius was then sent to deal with them, but they just crossed north whenever he approached. As for the Lombards Narses had hired, that is. They told everything they saw in Italy to their king, Alboin. In short, an ultra-civilized, depopulated, defenseless land. Alboin then invaded Italy, and due
Oh
to the
my
damage the
goodness.
Ostrogoths and Franks dealt to the defenses, soon took over the Po Valley, the entire north, and spilled some germs to take over the south, mostly the country.
Alright, so we've already lost Italy. Yeah, I know, like I said, Justinian was the peak, and I was looking at those videos, like where it says, like, the evolution of, every continent in Europe for 1,000 years or something. And yeah, you see the Byzantine Empire immediately, like, under Justinian, it just has this, it's huge, and then you just see it shrink, shrink, shrink until it's nothing. Eventually, it's just, like, Constantinople and, like, a few islands, but yeah, it's really sad, but obviously while they expanded a lot, they just couldn't hold it. They didn't have the manpower. The plague hit. And now we're already seeing it lost. Like, it's sad, but yeah, Justinian's reign just feels like the last. It really does. It felt like the last hurrah to Rome, because everything after it. It's not like the Byzantine Empire was completely awful after Justinian. It lasted a while longer, and obviously there were good ones, but good emperors, I mean, but yeah, it's just Justinian was like the last peak, you know. I feel personally.
Side. They were too stupid to know how to siege Rome, Ravenna, and what was it? Venice? Some island city near the coast. Better yet, the Visigoths in Hispania then took Seville and Cordoba, and the Moors in Africa started a revolt and killed 2 generals sent to fight them. And Justin reacted to all of these catastrophes by increasing taxes on bread and wine. All that debt pardoning and Gibbs gibbing drove things deep in the red, you see. And then the heretics outdid themselves, with some Monophysite radicals now claiming that each member of the Holy Trinity had a distinct nature. They were soon accused of polytheism by their very own, and to defend themselves, they said it was perfectly plausible for gods to have distinct natures and still be a single entity.
Yeah, I know that. That's quite a. That's funny. I won't get into the nature of God much or theology. Obviously, I say that for my main channel. Though I will say there is a lot of denominations in Christianity, and in these denominations, a lot of people, like a lot of the Trinitarians, would say that there are 3 distinct members of the Godhead, but there's only one God. And usually it's because, he's God and he can just do that. And then there are other denominations that say there's only one God, or who just happen to appear in other ways. And then some would say that the idea of 3 distinct natures is wrong because that would imply 3 distinct people and there's only one God. Yeah, you can see where it gets, huh? Like a lot of these arguments lasted and go all the way back to Rome when it became a popular, faith. And yeah, you can see like a lot of these arguments and thoughts persist even to this day. I had to study a lot of them throughout my Bible college years.
Thing is, that was exactly what the Council of Chalcedon, the Council Monophysites rejected, affirmed. Justin then pounced on this by getting them to sign an Act of Union, but all it did was drive the pleb Monophysites in Egypt angry, so the signatories backed off, which oh so angered Justin he started persecuting Monophysites again, inefficiently at that. Can you imagine what Justinian would have done with such a golden opportunity? As for Tiberius, he welcomed one of Paul's sons as one of his secretaries, a skilled youth named Maurice, who later on joined the Excubitors, where he met another skilled youth, Philippicus. Meanwhile, in the forever irrelevant backwater of Yemen, there lived a Christian kingdom named Aksum, which due to being allied to the empire, Khosrau invaded and puppeted. Thankfully, the Sassanids were now dealing with their own steppe nomads, known by many names. Among them, partially, eventually, the Khazars, who then sent an alliance proposal to Justin II against the Sassanids, and not wanting to pay the Sassanids for peace anymore, he went for it. Justin II then declared the Christian Armenians under Sassanid tyranny to be under his protection, and Justinian the Younger supported an Armenian revolt in the Persian side. The Sandhunters tried crushing it, Justinian fought them back, and war had begun again. Pulling legions from the Balkans, Justin paid the Avars a ransom to not invade the empire. And yes, the irony was lost on him. Justin then sent his cousin to go siege Nisbis at the border, but impatient with the siege, he fired his cousin, leaving the legions leaderless just as Khosrau led his massive hordes towards them. The legions then retreated back to the empire, leaving top-tier Roman siege weapons behind, which Khosrau then stole for himself. Justin organized no response. No, he was too busy alienating the Empire's allies for that. And when he looked back at the front, Dara had fallen. Yeah, Dara had fallen. After so many decades thinking he was the perfect nephew of the great emperor, he got so arrogant and foolishly confident that the moment he realized the main eastern fortress had fallen, leaving the entire east exposed to the Sassanids, and that it was all his fault, he went fucking insane. Completely breaking down, Justin began having random violent episodes. He ran around screaming like a maniac and had to be pinned down to stop. Bars had to be put on windows to prevent him from jumping. Anyone that got too close he bit like a savage beast. And the marks he left on
Oh my
servants spread
gosh.
rumors that the emperor was a cannibal.
Wow. What a complete mess this is all. Excuse me, but I just ate right now, and it's Yeah, forgive me, but man, what a complete mess. Italy's already like most of Justinian and Belisarius's conquest of the West is already gone, and now the Sassanids are just primed and ready to like take more. Yeah, this dude was beyond incompetent, and if what Dovahadi is saying it's true that he was just that arrogant to seize power and think he could just do great just because he was related to a great person is just. I am sorry he's lost his mind, but yeah, some people should just never be in power.
Given the emperor's condition, the empire fell to the empress to run, again, who made all of the decisions as Justin was calmed with soothing music and was carried around the palace in a mobile throne he really enjoyed. Sophia then gave Khosrau 45,000 solidus for a one-year truce and then convinced Justin to delegate his authority to someone else. That someone else being Tiberius. Tiberius was thus proclaimed Caesar and gave himself the name Constantine, but that didn't stop him from being remembered as Tiberius II. In his vacant place, Tiberius named Marius as the new excubitor commander and planned to rely on him a lot. It all happened right when a plague outbreak had ended, and with Tiberius giving gifts to the plebs and legions, he ensured their support. Lots of gifts, really. Tiberius downright didn't care for money, giving the Avars 80,000 solidus a year to guard the
Oh
Danube and
no.
Khosrau 30,000 for a couple of years of partial truce.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've never commented on this specifically throughout this whole entire Dovahadi series we've been doing. But excuse me again, but um when emperors just start trying to pay off like the Praetorians or the people or their enemies, it's always just the they pacify them for a very brief period of time before the enemy or the people who receive the money just keep asking for more, and then it'll come to a point where they just keep on asking that the emperor won't be able to, or the emperor will see that they'll just keep taking advantage of that, and then it just always ends up with the empire with less money and the enemy still there. Like buying off people and things just never works, and Tiberius is already showing a lot of. Boy, Tiberius already has disappointed me. He doesn't seem to grasp that you can't do that, and he's just wasting money. It's just disappointed.
Partial because it didn't include Armenia. So much he spent that Sophia kept the keys to the imperial treasury away from him. She was, after all, technically still the empress. With the time literally bought, Tiberius was focused on assembling the largest army he could to fight the empire's many enemies. He both started recruiting plebs like mad and hiring barbarians like mad. In total,
Okay, you had me there again, Tiberius, now you've lost me. Smart to be building an army, obviously, applaud for that, but it never works out with the barbarians. They always turn on you. It doesn't matter if you enlist them in your ranks, like, they'll always be trouble and they'll turn on you. Yeah, I already see disaster for this. We've been watching this series long enough. We just see the same old trends, right? Playing out just all the time. Those what's the saying? Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Like, unfortunately, a lot of history is just people not learning from history, and then a lot of events playing over and over again.
he assembled many tens of thousands worth of legions, mostly
Wow.
plebeian recruits, and that would bite the empire in the ass. It always fucking does. He then sent some of them to go deal with the Lombards, but they failed. So, after Alboin died, Tiberius instead paid them to not elect a new leader and remain a leaderless rabble. Khosrau then invaded Roman Armenia, terrorizing the locals, making them flee with their resources, which left him supply-starved in the mountains with Justinian the Younger nearby. Justinian then dealt Khosrau his first ever defeat, forcing himself to retreat across the Euphrates, with Justinian killing many and seizing their leftovers, among them 24 elephants. And after Khosrau assembled a massive horde to counterattack, Justinian pushed back, and was later replaced by Maurice on Tiberius's orders, returning to Constantinople. And yeah, Khosrau did break the truce, attacking Mesopotamia yet again, but Maurice kicked his teeth in and counter-invaded to retaliate. However, in the years prior, Khosrau had realized that for all the damage he dealt to the empire, he never did come close to destroying it. And given that his son, Hormizd, didn't seem promising, Khosrau appealed to his lord Satan for help again. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the East had been a battleground between the forces of good and evil. What the monsters envisioned to end the stalemate was the birth of an entity so powerful and so evil it would destroy civilization for
Oh my
good,
goodness.
infusing the damned souls of all past terrible Eastern demons, from Ardashir to Shapur and beyond, sacrificing his own darkness to bring it into existence. A truly dark day had been brought to the world. The era of endless inconclusive wars was at an end. In but a couple of decades, this world would understand the true meaning of apocalypse.
I think he's referring to the Arabs, right? Or Islam, because Islam, and I believe it was Mehmed II, also known as Mehmed the Conqueror, is the guy who defeated the final Byzantine emperor into Constantinople. Yeah, I believe that's what it's referring to, and that's why Dova Hadi couldn't continue the series, because he would have offended the Arabs or Islam, or and YouTube wasn't cool with that, or no one was cool with that. Excuse me, but uh, I just love Satan's just there. I just find it hilarious. We've gone a real long way. First, it was what Dido and her dark magic. Then it was just dark magic. Now it's just Satan. It's there. Uh, I just love he just made him a character in the background.
Creating the Antichrist took everything from Khosrau, and after getting trashed by Maurice, he finally died, thank God. Justin also died, thank God, making Tiberius a full-fledged Augustus, free from Sophia's influence. And she didn't take that well at all. Tiberius would then reduce taxes by 25% for further support and then annex the Christian Lazica kingdom into the empire to fortify its eastern presence against the new Sassanid king. Sophia then dragged Justinian the Younger into plotting against Tiberius, but they were found out and then pardoned. Then she did it again, were found out again, and were pardoned again. As for Africa, the Moor revolt was put down by the governor, Germanus the Younger. Posthumously born after his father's death, the half-Goth became friends with Tiberius, and sort of with Maurice. Back beyond the Danube, the Avars had completely taken over since the Lombards left, ruling Bulgars and Slavs alike. But since hatred of being part of large multi-ethnic political entities is inherent to all Slavs, over 100,000 of them migrated south to the empire. Straight up just walking in and starting to farm random Balkan lands as if they belonged there. Given the
What a power move. I love his depiction of the Slavs.
Slavic menace, Tiberius wanted a peace with the Sassanids, but Hormizd refused to give back Dara, and the empire needed Dara. Maurice then began launching several invasions of Sassanid Mesopotamia, threatening Ctesiphon many times. Tiberius then evacuated Sirmium, letting the Slavs continually migrate south all the way to Athens. Maurice then met one of the main Sassanid hordes in one of his raids, and crushed them hard, killing their war chief and forcing them to flee to the occupied Dara. But the humiliation of the Sassanids was interrupted when the news came from the capital. Tiberius had contracted a severe illness. Recalled back to Constantinople alongside Germanus, they found Tiberius on his deathbed. Having only 2 daughters and thus no heirs, he married Constantina in chariot to the 2 men, who he then proclaimed both as Caesars, intending to divide the empire among them. Germanus refused the position, and so Tiberius just gave Maurice full power, telling him, "Make your reign my finest epitaph." By the way, it wasn't an illness. Sophia just poisoned Tiberius out of spite. She did kill him, but nothing more. Maurice, now Augustus of the Empire, would focus on three things. 1. Breeding. No, really, he had not 5, not 7, but 9 children with Constantina.
Oh
2.
my.
The Empire's finance. Because after Tiberius, someone had to. And 3, and most important, crushing Rome's enemies. For that, he would assemble the best generals the Empire had to offer. Philippicus, now his brother-in-law, Priscus, a highly efficient, if reserved general, Commentiolus, an excubitor that absolutely despised barbarians of all sorts, Narses, no, not that Narses, and Heraclius. Heraclius the Elder, a descendant of Heraclius of Edessa, a veteran that fought in the failed African invasion of 468. Heraclius would join the legions and become Philippicus's most trusted commander, being known as the Elder because he had a far more famous son, Heraclius, the Heraclius. To force a peace with the Sassanids, he sent some legions to take over Persian Armenia, but when they met some difficulties, he put Philippicus in charge of them. Philippicus then invaded, finding and crushing a Sassanid army, who then fled to Dara. Heraclius though went further, invading deep into Persia and capturing several forts. The West was in desperate need of help though. The Avars were now demanding 100,000 solidus per year, with Maurice refusing because he knew they would just keep demanding more and more, so they just ravaged the place. Maurice then sent Commentiolus with an embassy to test if the Avars would honor a peace treaty. Commentiolus then enraged the Khan by being very honest, getting briefly imprisoned, but they agreed to it. Naturally, the Avars broke it by keeping Sirmium, so Maurice transferred 20,000 men to the Balkans under Commentiolus, who crushed the Slavic horde near the Anastasian Wall and started rooting out all the Slavic migrants. The Avars then double broke the treaty, full-on invading the Balkans again. Commentiolus almost ambushed and killed the Khan, but the Avars were too fast. The Slavs then attacked the plague-infested Thessalonica for reasons I'm sure made sense to them, but Commentiolus got more eastern legions and saved it. Meanwhile, Maurice was saving the economy by changing how soldiers were supplied, from just giving them money to buy equipment to directly equipping them, the way that monster Diocletian did it, cutting expenses in, say, 25%. Maurice thus changed Philippicus with Priscus in the east, who was to deliver the news to the plebeian legions. Telling them of the 25% cut, the pleb legions revolted, threw stones at Priscus, and even when he rescinded the pay cut, they elected a new general to lead them. Maurice then sent Philippicus back, but the plebs rejected him too, all while Hormids invaded both Armenia and Mesopotamia. Unfortunately for them, the new general was loyal to Maurice and pushed the Sassanids back, and Maurice backed off on the pay cut. Priscus was then sent to deal with the Avars, letting one of his soldiers get caught with a fabricated message by Maurice telling Priscus of an upcoming naval invasion of the Avar heartland. The Avar Khan fell for it and agreed to leave for 60,000 solidus instead of the 100,000 to defend his lands. The eastern general then gave back command to Philippicus, who would then receive news of a traitor that led 400 Sassanids to Martiopolis, saying they were deserting to the empire only then to be let in and give it to the Sassanids. To counter this, Maurice took advantage of the Lazican annexation by convincing the Christian Iberians to attack the Sassanids. To fight them, Hormizd sent a war chief named Bahram. Bahram did expel the Iberians, but was then defeated in battle by the Romans. Twice. Outraged at his performance, Hormizd sent Bahram a present that fully represented what he thought of his performance in battle. A woman's dress.
Oh, snap.
Bahram then revolted against Hormizd, marched his hordes south, crushed the loyalist hordes, and before he took Ctesiphon, the men inside killed Hormizd,
Holy
with Bahram
crap.
proclaiming the rebirth of the Parthian Empire. While the Sassanids imploded, Maurice's sons had grown up, especially his eldest son, Theodosius, who became good friends with Germanus. Such friendships were plentiful, because after abolishing that old reform from that monster Diocletian, Maurice made provincial governors, now exarchs, rule both the
Oh, I'm sad he's a little bit against Diocletian. I guess Diocletian has a pretty odd history. I don't know. I kind of admired a lot of his reforms, though I will say he was beyond not perfect. And a lot of what he did actually contributed to a lot more issues, but I don't know. I kind of like him. He's like in my... I think he was in my top 5 of favorite Roman emperors. I admired his hustle, though. I'll admit, he was far from perfect.
administration and the military, naming Heraclius the Elder as the new Exarch of Africa. Philippicus was then replaced by Commentiolus, who then beat a nearby Sassanid horde, but could not yet retake any of the lost cities. As he contemplated his hatred of barbarians in private, he received news of an unexpected guest nearby the gates. As he went to see who he was, Commentiolus could feel the evil in the air. That malevolent barbarian essence he so recognized and despised, stronger than he ever felt before. A bloodthirst unrivaled, a deep wish to destroy civilization. Before him stood Khosrau II, asking for the Empire's help in retaking his throne. Before the news reached him, Maurice was instigating the Franks into attacking the Lombards, but then they elected a new king and pushed them off several times. When Maurice did hear of Khosrau's request, before instantly refusing, he was also told of the trade he was offering. Not only would Khosrau II give back both Dara and Martiopolis to Rome, but also most of Sassanid Armenia. But then Bahram counter-offered, promising all of that plus Nisibis at the border. When left choosing between two evils, despite Bahram offering more, Maurice could feel himself favoring Khosrau more, hoping that by helping him in his hour of need, that young Sassanid could be trusted to maintain a long-term peace with the Empire, rather than trusting a barbarian usurper that spent his whole life fighting Romans. When the orders came to help the Sassanids, Khosrau refused to let Commentiolus lead the armies, pissed that he just would not stop insulting him, and so he chose Narses to lead it instead. Narses then marched east with Khosrau. The loyalist garrisons of Martiopolis and Dara gave them back. Bahram then fled to Ctesiphon and his barbarians were defeated. Khosrau II was reinstated back in power, and when everyone expected a betrayal, he honored his word, giving the Romans the Persian half of Armenia.
Yeah, I don't trust him. He honors his part. I'll give him that, but yeah, I don't trust him. I don't trust. Yeah, that's such a hard place to be in. Like, the worst of two worlds. They're both against you, but you choose to help one. But I don't buy the peace act. Like, he'll obviously turn on it pretty soon, I imagine. But yeah, I don't trust him.
Maurice then recalled his troops to the Empire, and with this peace, sent most of those legions to reinforce the west, having now trust in the Sassanid king. If only he knew. Now focused on the west, Maurice sent Priscus to invade the Slav lands up north to force them to defend it and to prevent more migrants from spilling over. It wasn't technically Avar land, but they still complained. Priscus then defeated two Slav armies and was told by Maurice to winter in the Slav lands to save the Empire the costs of maintaining the legions. But the pleb legions complained again, and Priscus returned to prevent another revolt.
Plebs.
Maurice then sent his brother Peter to replace Priscus in the hopes that he would convince them of the necessity to save money, trying again to enact the 25% cut. But this time with concessions regarding granting army ranks to the sons of fallen soldiers and giving injured veterans subsidies for life. The plebs accepted the concessions, but not the pay cut. Instead, they wanted the concessions and the pay increase, with Peter agreeing not to cause trouble. Maurice then got pissed and gave the legions back to Priscus to go both distract them and repel the Avars, now raiding Dalmatia. After pushing the Avars back and clearing the Balkans of most Slav migrants, the Avars counterattacked, invading and cornering Priscus against the Black Sea. Commentiolus was then sent to relieve him, which he did, also crushing a Slav migrant horde because he wanted to. Then the plague had re-emerged from Italy, spreading to the empire. And while not as bad to the Romans as it once was, it was devastating to the non-immune Avars. The Avar Khan lost 7 sons to the plague, wrecking the Avars so much they retreated north wanting peace. Commentiolus got a little ill, but sensing their weakness, Maurice sent Priscus north with all of his forces. Battle after battle after battle after battle, Priscus crushed all Avar hordes he found, destroyed the remaining Gepid mud hut villages, and won a 5th battle against the Slavic horde, taking tens of thousands of prisoners. And for the first time in decades, The Danube was pacified.
Holy crap.
Bitter in defeat, the thousands
That's
of traders
awesome.
that had deserted the empire for the Avars were slaughtered by them. Being a good winner, Maurice then let the Avars have their hostages back, knowing it's better to have constructive relations with them than to destroy them and have an even worse horde take their place. In fact, these insights into the military realities of the age were central to Maurice's magnum opus, the Strategicon, a military manual containing the collective wisdom of the best generals of the age, condensed into a single book. A masterpiece of the defensive attritional warfare the late Roman Empire had grown so used to. Plus horse archery. Lots of horse archery. But
Heck
all
yeah.
these victories and imperial brilliance was lost on the plebs. All they saw was an emperor that wouldn't give them gibs, the return of the plague, and now a famine, leading to riots. Theodosius would fall under attack in the capital, but was saved by his friend Germanus. Maurice then gave the legions to Peter, telling him to go fuck up the Slavs. Succeeding in the task, Maurice told him to pass the winter in the Slav lands to save costs. The legions complained yet again, but Peter insisted on the orders. The weather then turned for the worse. Several storms and cold winds gathered, but Peter continued to insist. Furious at being asked to do their job, the pleb legionnaires chose one among them to lead their resentment. The ultimate manifestation of blabbery and the epitaph of all that is corrupt and traitorous. Focus would remember all, just how bad
Focus?
things can get. Just who do you think was the prime driver of all of those times the legions refused the emperor's orders? Just who do you think was the pleb fostering the bitterness and resentment among the plebs for his personal benefit? And who do you think was the one behind his emergence to power? Everything was falling into place. When the internal and external minions of the eternal adversary striked, the end would follow. Focus's rebels were the closest forces to the capital, and immediately marched there. His demands being for Maurice to abdicate and give the empire to either his son Theodosius or to Germanus, this being a plot to alienate them from each other. With the rioters playing ball, they seized all horses in the city, except for Germanus' horse, an act to make Maurice even more suspicious of him. Germanus then took refuge in the Hagia Sophia, but before forcing him out, Maurice, with nowhere near enough men to guard the Theodosian walls, he decided to flee with his family across to Anatolia.
Oh
As
my
he convened with his
gosh.
family, Maurice was struck with an illness, a case of gout that made traveling impossible. And now he began speaking of Khosrau II as his last hope.
No,
Maurice
he's
then
not.
sent Theodosius to ask
No, he's not.
Khosrau for help, but later restored his senses and recalled his son back. However, when Phocas got to Constantinople, there was no one to stop him from acclaiming himself as the emperor. While in the city, Germanus tried acclaiming himself emperor before Phocas, but the Greens wouldn't support him. Seeing where the wind was blowing, the Senate proclaimed Phocas as the rightful emperor, and had him crowned as such outside of the walls.
Again, another soldier gone rogue. Except, yeah, the same story told. Like, I mentioned in my Fall of Rome video just how self-destructive the Romans are, how self-sabotaging. Like, like, even at their weakest, they'll just like backstab each other for more power grabs instead of realizing the bigger picture of we're kind of screwed in the face of things, right? Like, we're not as strong as we once were. The Black Plague, the 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 economy failing. It's like you really think, especially like at the fall of Rome, at all this, they would realize we need to fight. But it's like so many are only self or motivated by self interest. What can I get, right? Give me more money, let me not have to work as hard in the military. It's just like Focus is, yeah, he pretty much comes across as the epitome of all these people, from Tetricus to every just Roman person who just backstabs better leaders just for their own glory. It's Yeah, Morris really deserved better. He deserves better. Like he's actually really competent, and I don't see things ending well for him.
letting him enter as a triumphant hero. As the first successful usurpation in the Roman East in countless years, Phocas bribed the plebs in the Hippodrome for support and sent his minions to hunt down the incapacitated Morris. It didn't take long, finding him and his family in Chalcedon. And so Morris was forced to watch as all of his sons were killed and daughters brutalized before his very eyes, only for them to be killed himself.
Are you kidding me right now? Oh my gosh. Poor Morris, man. Morris. I don't think I'm saying his name right, but poor him, dude. He joins the legacy of many late Roman chads who were trying to do better for the entire nation and getting screwed over by everyone. That's sad. Though I do take some comfort in knowing that the Byzantine Empire lasts a little longer and that there were good emperors, so Phocas definitely gets his, I'm sure.
Phocas ordered the heads of Morris and his sons to be publicly displayed,
Holy
imprisoning his
crap,
wife
dude.
and daughters as he publicly damned the late emperor's memory. All citizens in the empire worth their salt refused to bow to the usurper, with Phocas using his pleb legions to hunt down every last one of them. Peter was killed shortly after the fall of the capital. Philippicus was imprisoned and forced to join a monastery under heavy monitoring. Narses was captured after a siege and burned alive in
Oh my gosh.
Constantinople. Commentiolus was tortured for his vehement defiance and executed. Germanus was forced to recognize Phocas as his emperor and kept on a tight leash. And Priscus, due to his recent famous triumphs, was allowed to live and join Phocas's regime, getting arranged to his daughter and entrusted to serve him loyally as the excubitor commander. With no morals nor restraint, Phocas purged the empire of every last shred of defiance and competence he could find, replacing the higher ranks with his corrupt relatives. But for all the damage Phocas did and would do to the empire, it paled in comparison to what the true enemy would bring. With the great
I do know that the Byzantines eventually do get better at when it comes to defending themselves and the art of defense. So I do know that I was like doing some amateur research, and even though they obviously do shrink as time passes, I do know that they do get better at holding off. So I'm definitely looking forward. Well, again, there's only like one video after this, so probably won't get to experience all that though. I will definitely be looking up more after this is all said and done.
emperor dead, his generals gone, and legions traitorous, though lacking the original pretext he planned for, Khosrau II still followed his creator's wishes and declared war on the Roman Empire. The usurper cared little for it, but near him, Priscus well knew that this war would be like none ever fought before in the East. Having lost his emperor, colleagues, and now facing this existential nightmare, Priscus wrote to the only man left he knew could save the empire from the brink of destruction. Risking his life to do so, he made sure the letter got to him. And although Heraclius the Elder would honor the call, it would not be him who would fulfill it. For untold millennia the Romans had stood defiant, barbarian after barbarian, traitor after traitor. Be it triumph or catastrophe in the end, there was always a hero fighting for the light in any crisis, and so it would be for this one. The following decades would be ones of conflict and suffering far beyond any seen in this age. The age of Heraclius, the age of the final war.
Hercules. 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 Wait, give me a second. Hercules, or at least that's how Dovahadi is saying it. Doesn't he start? I believe he starts a dynasty actually, so I am comforted in knowing Focus gets his. Oh man, I feel so bad for Maurice, man. He didn't deserve that. That's awful. He was so good. It's like the tragedy of like trying to be trying to get the nation and Rome lasting. It's just like you keep getting backstabbed by your own people. Like I said, so much of Rome's issues wouldn't even exist or be issues if it wasn't for like them self-sabotaging and like turning on each other. But that's just that's just how it was, and it's a shame. It's a real shame. But the final war, I think that's the final video that'll be up by tomorrow, and I'll say my goodbyes for that one. But this has been a really interesting ride so far. Well, we still have one more to go, guys. I'll see you next time in the final war. Bye, everyone.